Hello, everybody. How are you? That was loud. How's that? Is that a little better? Okay, hi. My name is Ronan. I'm the Executive Director of Storytelling Arts of Indiana. Thank you for being at our April Story Slam. Before I bring Celestine up to run us through the show, I just wanted to remind you all that this month we are accepting applications for Frank Basile's Emerging Stories. For those of you that don't know what that is, that's our commission for a local storyteller. It's a $2,000 commission to develop a story of their choice to be performed at the Indiana Historical Society in mid-November. So the information's on our website and our newsletter, or simply email me at ronan@storytellingarts.org, and I'll give you information, or just email your idea to me and I will accept it that way as well. We keep it pretty simple around here. But again, that's Frank Basile's Emerging Stories. Please, if you're interested in telling an hour-long story that you develop from now to November, please submit your application. Again, it's a $2,000 commission. And we are looking for applications now through the end of May, I think. Anyway, so thank you. Here comes Celestine. Thank you very much.
Hi, everybody. Hello. Like Donna Jones and our friend Helen White always say, it's better to be seen than viewed. So thanks for coming out. Now, I know what you're thinking right now. You're thinking you came here to hear some basket is kind of really light. Really light. Okay, I'm going to sit down just for a hot minute. I'm going to do elbows with the mic. Every sweat shoes. Hold on. I got it. Ooh, that was hard work. Listen, I appreciate you coming here tonight because it's nice outside. You know it's gonna rain, right? You know it's gonna be freezing again. You know you should not plant anything before Mother's Day. Okay? Right? But my crocuses have bloomed and croaked. The stems from the winter did get cut down, so they're tulips trying to sprout up between the dead woody stems. But that's not why we're here tonight. We're here to talk about Binge. Tonight's Indy Story Slam was presented by Freetown Village and Storytelling Arts of Indiana and sponsored by Maestro Organizing and our media sponsor, WFYI. Listen, the story must be true. Yes, that's where it goes. Yes. I ordered a pretzel and I have a margarita. Who knows what I'm gonna end up? We're at Happily the Barbecue. In case you haven't been here, come on down. We're just getting started. Your story should be true, but unless your nose starts to grow, we won't know. That's a trait of a true storyteller. You tell us a lie and make us believe it's the truth. It should be told in the first person no longer than 5 minutes in length, and our theme today is binge. If you have notes on your phone, leave your phone at your table. If you wrote it in the palm of your hand, if you can be discreet, we won't know. We'd like to thank our judges. Thank you. Where's our timekeeper? Hey, she will raise her hand when you get to 4 minutes. That's to let you know that your time is coming to a close. And yes, you can keep on talking, but let me tell you, those points will be counted against you. That's what I meant to say. Listen, thank you, Shannon, for making me look good on TV and taking photographs. And everything related to the slam. Thank you, Samantha. I'm looking out in the audience and I don't see Greg. He's probably like they're organizing something. He needs to come to my house, but I'm afraid to let him in. Listen, binge. I don't know if you can tell by looking at me, but I'm a woman with reserve. Okay? I reserve my binges for something fantastic. Like chocolate from Donaldson's up in Lebanon. And my brother was so kind, he was up there, had ridden by and stopped and went in and talked to the guys and brought me back some chocolate. Well, they can't call them turtles, but that's what they were. And I wish I could say to you that I ate one, just bit it in half, put it back in the box, and waited. But no, I ate the whole thing. And I don't mean just the whole turtle. I ate the whole box. And then I was sad because the box was gone and I wanted more. So I have found out that if I want to diet, it cannot come to my house. Same thing with a bag of Lay's potato chips. Now, I love me some Lay's potato chips. But in my mind, there is no such thing as a bad potato chip. Unless maybe they're stale. And I found out you can put them in the microwave for a couple of seconds and that will crisp them right back up. So I keep no Lay's in my house because if a bag of Lay's potato chips come to my house, I'm going to eat the entire bag of Lay's potato chips. I'm not talking about them little Dickie sideshow bags that you get at Jimmy John. I'm talking about the party size bag, okay? And now you know potato chips are not good for you. At least my doctor has told me this over and over again. So I try to keep them out of my house. But I love it when Kroger has the potato chips on sale. You know, buy 4 of them for $10. That's my best special. And I think if I get the smaller size, that I will just eat a smaller amount. That just means a bag a day for 4 days. That's all it means. And then my next favorite binge happens to be Cheez-Its. Now, you know, they made other products like cheese nips, cheese, what's that other thing? Something else with cheese in. They're not the same as Cheez-Its. Then Cheez-Its started making extra toasty Cheez-Its. That's my favorite. I'm telling you that let a family-sized box of Cheez-Its come to my house. I will not eat a meal. I will just eat Cheez-Its. So I know I don't eat much, but I eat the wrong thing. But I'm here to tell you that if you want to make me smile, give me a bag of potato chips, a box of good chocolate, or some Cheez-Its, and we will be friends for life. But I know that you're sitting here thinking, I don't have anything to talk about binging. Come on now. The word binge wasn't even in our vocabulary because it was a bad thing. Until we had shows that came on Netflix like Grace and Frankie. Oh, I love that show. Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin. I wanted to know them in real life. I wanted to buy one of those little purple doodads they were selling for myself. So I binge watch things that normal people don't binge. Another one of my favorite shows, Somebody Feed Phil. Phil, I love him to death. Phil travels all over the world and goes to restaurants that you and I have probably walked past and then think about going in. Not only does he get all the good food, when he gets the food, he starts dancing. I don't know about you, but if I got something really good, I'm gonna dance too. Not only does he dance, he invites other people to enjoy the food he's been eating. He's been to Vietnam, to Singapore, to Philadelphia, to San Francisco, to Chicago. I don't think he's been to Indianapolis yet. But I want you to know that when he eats and smiles and grins and dances, I feel like I'm right there. And he's got about 3 seasons of Somebody Feed Phil. We watch his mother pass, his father pass. He's bringing on guest comics to tell bad jokes at the end to honor his dad. But he was a co-writer of Everybody Loves Raymond, and they were friends. So it's wonderful. And now he has a restaurant. I think it's in the San Francisco area. I can't really remember. Maybe I don't remember. Not be LA. And his daughter is running it. And people stand in line for hours just to go in to eat his food. I'm going to go there one day, and I'm going to stand in line, and I'm going to eat his food. Now I remember going to Seattle. We were going on a cruise to Alaska, and one of the things they had was a place where Guy Fieri had gone to, part of diners, drive-ins, and dives. And we kept telling our tour bus driver that we wanted to go to this particular establishment from diners, drive-ins, and dives. And he kept telling us no. And I don't know why he kept telling us no, but he did turn us on to a really good seafood restaurant in downtown Seattle. But if I look on TV and I see some good food, you'll see me there later. Okay? So now I have friends who used to travel to their church conference and they used to drive. And I know you pass these signs on the highway where place of thrown rolls. Okay, you done gone down 55, you saw where they threw rolls. Now I wanted to go, but as a traveler by myself, I never went. But I had some girlfriends who would go off the beaten path to visit the restaurant that threw the rolls. So I know, even though I don't have a handful now, what's going to happen is you're going to hear somebody tell a story, and you're going to think, oh, yeah, I remember the time so you could binge a lot of things: alcohol, TV shows, books, chocolate, potato chips. I'm just giving you a few examples of my personal experiences. But I'm going to reach inside this lime green basket with a mixer all it up. And the first person who's going to tell us a story about binge is Rick Phillips. Come on down, Rick. And I'm going to hand you this mic, and you can do whatever you want because I'm moving. Nice to see you.
And you. My story is about none of those things. The first thing you have to know is that this story is about bears. And this story, it happened about a month after I found out that I have had type 1 diabetes. Now, the second thing you need to know about type 1 diabetes is that insulin stinks. It smells so bad, and the manufacturers make it smell so bad because if you use it that way, if you've drawn it out, you remember, yeah, I can smell it, and that way I know I've used it. Well, when you're backpacking, which I was, 100 miles from anywhere, what you do is you put your stuff in a bear bag at night, and you hoist it up in the tree, and you make it so bears don't come and get it. Because bears love stuff that stinks. And I reckon, not known personally, insulin stinks and the bears might come get it. So I put my insulin up, up in the tree. Put our food up in the tree, put the insulin up in the tree. Put it high up in the tree. Because we've been warned in this particular area, there was bears and they would climb the tree and get the stuff. So put it up high in the tree. We're asleep at night. Everything's still. And out of nowhere, we heard the most thunderous crash. Growl. Of course, that aroused us out of our tent. We ran up there on that path half naked to see what all that commotion was about. And there we found two bears. One with its mouth full of our bags of food. And the other twitching on the path. What could possibly have happened? Well, there that had its mouth full of food turned and looked at us. And then he looked at the bear that was twitching. And he said, through his eyes, "To hell with you. I got the food." And he turned around and he started up the little ridge. And the bear that was twitching was. And I swear to God, the bear that got up on the ridge turned around and looked at us one last time. And he shook his head. And it was like, ha, my. He took off. But the bear that was twitching, he was laying on the path. And he was quite a monster. He had to be 300-400 pounds at least. And he was twitching and he was quite the mess. And eventually he got up. And he walked this way and he ran into a tree. And he walked this way and he ran into a tree. And then he walked forward and he fell down. Then he walked backward and he fell down. He was quite a mess. And eventually he grabbed what food he could and he shook his head and he took off up over the ridge. Well, he'd taken all of our food, but none of our insulin. Thankfully. We had to hike back about 10 miles to get our food, get food from the last depot. And we were telling the fellow, we saw the most crazy thing. We saw these two bears and they climbed the tree. And we showed him our nylon sack that was completely ripped out. Completely ripped out. He said, these bears ripped out our sack and stole our food. He said, you met the kamikaze bears. Kamikaze bears? Yeah, they work a pair. See, one climbs a tree and one jumps. And the one that jumps has his paw and it reaches out and rips the bag. The other one waits on the ground and takes all the food away. So the moral of that story is, if you're paired with a kamikaze bear, if you're the kamikaze and your partner is the one waiting on the ground, you best make a deal that they save some of the stuff that dropped. Because that bear that jumped, I don't think he was too long. But I think the one that was waiting on the ground sure had a good bench.
Now, where were those kamikaze bears at again?
Where were they?
Uh-huh.
In Mexico.
I won't be going there. Just in case I won't be going there. But you know, I'm not a camper. Listen, I know you're beginning to think, what are we going to do next month? Our theme is Rom-Com, and we'll be at Cholita Tacos at 1001 Broadway Avenue. But just in case you are bored later on this month, Just Another Day, featuring Kim Whitcamp and sponsored by John and Carol Brown, will be at the Indiana History Center. She's very humorous. She's going to be sharing stories and songs that she wrote in 2020 during the pandemic. And I know y'all trying to put that out of your mind, but I have forgotten a thing about the pandemic. I remember how blue the skies were. I remember all the animals that came out and took over. But she'll be here, and I hope to see you there. That's our last event of the season. How about coming to, as I recall, Storytelling Guild? May 20th, 2 p.m. over Zoom. Zoom. Everybody has a story to tell, and you might want to tell yours there. It's from 2 to 4 p.m. on Zoom, facilitated by storytellers Ken Otis and Liz Meyer. You might want to go to an event with Freetown Village at the Sacred Center, remembering Black art and artists, on Thursday, April 16th, that's tomorrow, from 6 to 7 p.m. at Indiana Landmarks. Conversations in Indiana's African American History is a monthly gathering of voices, historians, researchers, and educators who deepen our understanding of the African American experience in Indiana. We'll talk some more about that in a minute. But I got to reach into this lime green basket. Now, did his memory bring a story that you want to tell? Samantha's got those blank forms right over there. All you have to do is wave at her. All you got to do is write your name down. All you got to do is come up here and tell a story. It don't take no rehearsal time. Think about you being at home, sitting around your dining room table, listening to something your mama and daddy used to tell you. Like the time we went to North Carolina to visit our relatives in the country, on the farm. Now look at me. Do I look like I'm a farm girl to you? No. I want you to know we got down there to Rockingham, North Carolina, and took our shoes off, started running through the dirt, started running out to the garden and plucking them tomatoes off the vines and running back in the house and washing them off and slicing them up and putting salt and pepper on them. By the time we ate one tomato, they had eaten 3. So we learned to brush off the tomatoes on our shirts and eat them like they were apples. Well, I want you to know that while we were down there in North Carolina, I wanted to go to school because they went to school before we did. We didn't go to school back in those days until after Labor Day. And so I said to my cousin, I said, well, I want to go to school with you. Back in the days, you could go to school with your cousins. My mother thought it was a great idea. She made my brothers go too. Now, I love school. Matter of fact, I'd have stayed in school 24 hours a day. I didn't even want to go home at all. That's how much fun I had at school. But my brothers to this very day are mad at me because I made them go to school with my cousins. And we're in different grade levels, and I don't even remember what I learned that day, but I had such a good time. So ever since that time, they've been holding it against me. But if I get near a school, I'm going in. Okay? I don't know if you call that a binge or not, but I want you to think about some of these stories that you could be up here telling instead of me. Now, I believe our judges have scored that last one. I'm gonna reach inside this lime green basket and I'm gonna pull out the name of Jim Clee. Come on down. I'm gonna think about some more binges as soon as I get. You know, I don't want you to think binges are a bad thing, okay?
In the early 2000s, there was a show on TV called 24. And in case you missed it, yes, thank you. It starred Kiefer Sutherland. He played Jack Bauer, who was a federal agent who worked for CTU, the counter-terrorist unit. And he used some unorthodox methods to save America from disaster. The premise of the show and the reason it was called 24 was because all the action took place in the course of one day in real time. So the season was 24 hours long. It was 24 episodes. Each episode was an hour. And throughout the show, there'd be a digital clock that would show up every once in a while, and it would beep and flash and show the time to the second. And in the first season, in the intro, Jack Bauer always said, "Today is the longest day of my life." But the show was so successful, it went on for 7 more seasons, so he couldn't say that anymore. And at the beginning of the show, he would say something like, "The following takes place between 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. Events occur in real time." Well, my dad and I were obsessed with this show. So much so that we called one another, I called him Jack. He's still Jack in my phone contacts. And he called me Kim. Kim Bauer was Jack's slightly idiotic daughter. And at the time, I was living with my parents. I was just out of college, and we binge watched that show before binge watching was a phrase, which kind of makes me feel like Dad and I invented binge watching. Every night he would say, "Kim, we have work to do." And we would watch DVDs of 24 entire DVDs at a time late into the night, and my mom would roll her eyes and go up to bed. And then when I went to grad school, I took binge watching 24 to a whole new level. I got 3 like-minded friends, and we decided that we were going to watch a season of 24 in real time. And so we were going to watch it in a season in 24 hours. So we thought the most logical season to watch would be season 2. It started at 8 a.m., which seemed like a reasonable time to start. And so we got a digital clock and put it above our TV. And as soon as it said 8 o'clock, we started the first episode. And we would pause it whenever there was a built-in commercial break, which was usually about 4 minutes. And during those 4 minutes, and then we'd pause and wait until the time synchronized again, and then we'd start it. During those 4 minutes, that's when we'd use the bathroom, grab snacks, and I would call my dad. And I think he was the only other person in my life who was supporting this project of mine. I remember the 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. hour being one of the hardest. My friends and I would go outside during those 4 minutes and just sprint up and down my street to just to wake up so that we can make it through. And then when 8 a.m. finally rolled around again, my friends and I, we stretched out the whole DVD cover and ran through it like we had completed a marathon. And then I called my dad, and I don't think he's ever been prouder of his baby girl. You know, in binge watching that show, my dad and I would always say, like, you know, on our deathbeds, we're going to have to look back and think about all the time we wasted watching 24. And due to the unique nature of the show, I can tell you exactly how many days of my life I have spent watching 24. My dad passed away 4 months ago this Saturday. And I don't know if he had any regrets on his deathbed, but I got to be with him. And I can tell you that I do not regret a single one of the seconds I spent binge watching 24 with my dad. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. That was so wonderful. My brothers always like to say that I got everything I wanted. Because I'm the oldest. I'm the only girl. Still mad at my parents for not having me a sister. So I had close relationships with several of my girlfriends, and they're like my sisters. Well, I remember growing up, my father was such a male chauvinist. He was a brick mason and a contractor, and he built some lovely houses. And I could drive through the city of Gary and show you the different homes and the office buildings that he created. But he never built us a house. And I would say things to him like, you know, I can go to work with you. Now, he would let my brothers work with him. I bought me a set of overalls and everything. And I remember it was my birthday one year, and I wanted him to either do one of three things: buy me a car, buy me a new stereo, or finish building the concrete block wall he had started in the backyard. That meant, of course, I had to help. I do believe that had he not been a male chauvinist, I would have been the one with the construction business today. Even though I had those overalls and I was ready to go to work, he wouldn't let me. But in that backyard, he had collected all these blocks that had blown down in a tornado at some car dealership, and they were painted orange on one side and concrete gray on the other. And if you don't know about bricklaying, there are all kinds of patterns that you can lay. I know how to make mud to this very day. But for those blocks, I had to take a hammer and chip off the concrete and help put that wall together. So that was my job. Making mud, carrying blocks. I had plans on going out that night, okay? I was a college student and I knew I was going to partay because it was my birthday. I would like to tell you now that I could not lift one foot in front of the other. I could not stand up. It was almost like I was this age back in my 20s. But I could talk my father into doing a lot of things by giving him choices. And to this very day, my brothers talk about going to work with him and how they hated going, but he wouldn't let me go. So I worked at the Walgreens lunch counter during my summer breaks. And I was grateful to have that job. But what I made in a week, my brothers made in a day. And I've been mad ever since. But I want you to know that I can't live in nothing but a brick house because I believe I'll be safe in one. And it has to have a basement. And it's all because my father was a brick mason and wouldn't let me work. Now I need a new bathroom. I'm old and decrepit, but I keep looking at that bathroom pink tile that I can't stand. I put gray in there to try and tone it down, but I'm thinking about taking a hammer, filling the tub up with newspapers and drop cloth so it won't get damaged as I go from tile to tile to tile, eliminating pink from my bathroom. I don't know. The last estimate I got was $24,000, and it would only replace the bathtub and convert it to a shower. And that'd be the only part that would not have pink. And I don't know about you, but my daddy was talking in my ear. And I got to thinking, that is too much. Okay. But now I want to be a bricklayer in my old age. I'm going to binge out on some diamond patterns, some running blocks. I already look, yeah, I look around, I can tell if I'm on the street and I see a man with concrete on his boots, that's a brick mason. And I should follow them home if they need to come to my house and do some work. So right now, if you know anybody who wants to do some charity work, and I mean charity, hook us up, okay? But before I say another word, I'm gonna reach into this lime green basket. Y'all sitting out there like y'all don't have no thoughts. I think you need to work on it. But right now, Kyle Corbin is going to come up and tell us a story. Come on down. There's always time for a story. How about cigarettes? I know some of y'all used to smoke. You used to binge on those Pall Malls, okay? That's what my mother used to smoke. Here you go. So come.
Thanks for inviting. I've been here for like 2 minutes. I just seriously just walked in. Um, okay, so forgive me if this doesn't go quite right, but I'll start by saying, hi, I'm Kyle. I binge hobbies, and it's been about 3 days since my last purchase. And what I usually start my hobby things small, and what started it this last time was talking to a coworker friend of mine. And he's telling me about how much he loves plants. He and his wife have a lot of plants in their house, and how much color it adds and how much joy they get out of it. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what I need? I need a life with more color. So on my way home from work, I stop by the store and I intend to get a plant. And I end up getting a lot of plants. To the point that if oxygen became a commodity, I would be a rich man, or will be a rich man. So I get my terrarium, whatever, filled out. I've got 40 plants, right? And so I'm at work the next day and I'm talking about these plants. And a friend of mine says, man, I really have a lot of plants too, but I don't like the containers they come in, the pots they come in. I don't love them. And another friend walks over and goes, yeah, I agree. You know what I do? I do a lot of woodworking. And sometimes I'll make a container for a plant. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, my plants don't deserve the drab gray or brown. My plants deserve woodworked custom homes, right? So on my way home, I drive by the hardware store and I buy all of the accoutrement. I buy wood, I buy glue, I buy saws, nails, clamps, enough clamps to feel supported in my new hobby. Right? So I get home and I'm doing wood things, I'm man, I will do aggressive things. And I'll do them aggressively and badly. So I'm working on this piece and I try to get it worked out, but after a couple days, emotionally, we both know this is not going to work out. So I go to throw this away, and as I walk outside to put it in the trash hopper, I realize the trash can's full, which is kind of indicative of the hobby thing, right? So when you go to throw something away and you don't have it full and you see everything's kind of spiraling out of control, you involve your kids. So what I did is I hop in the car with my mangled piece of thing, go over to his house, and I go to throw it away. And as I lift the lid on the hopper, there are 2 guitars sitting in the trash can. I'm like, what? So I call him because he's not home. And I'm like, why are there 2 guitars in your trash can? And he goes, oh, Quentin was over and he didn't want them and said they were just junk, but he plays all the time and it's a lot of fun. He really enjoyed it. He comes over sometimes and plays. And we know the trigger for me. It was a lot of fun. So I take those 2 trophies out of the trash can, place the piece of wood back in, and I clean them all up and I go to Guitar Center, Guitar Works, and trade them in for a brand new guitar.
I get a guitar, I get lessons, I get a amp. I got it all. There's a picture on my phone somewhere of it. I got all of it, right? And I get home and I strum, and it's not good. Right? So I pick at this for a few days. I'm watching videos and I'm doing this and I'm doing that.
You will minute.
Oh, crap, okay. I've got one more. So I'm strumming and, the following day I'm strumming and it sounds like my guitar is gently weeping. Um, so I'm pressed for time a little bit, so the guitar thing doesn't work out and I'm over at my son's house telling him how the guitar doesn't work out. And another friend that's sitting there, what's great? Talking. You don't need to practice at talking. You can do that. So what you need to do is a podcast. So 2 days later, I got in my truck and I drove to Akron, Ohio, and spent $2,000. And you can hear me about every Tuesday on a podcast. So, fair warning, if you come to me after this is all done and tell me about something that's fun, I'll be emotionally invested on the drive home. Okay.
That was good.
That was great, thank you. I remember telling my father he bought me a sewing machine. I could save our family money. I could sew our clothes. He didn't believe me. So I went over to my cousin's house one 4th of July weekend, because every 4th of July, you got to have a new outfit. Red, white, and blue. And we got patterns and material and cut out the loveliest outfits you ever wanted to see. And sewed them up and, pressed out the seams and hung them up. And we modeled these outfits at the 4th of July parade. Sure, we were on the sidelines and we wore them. So yes, my father bought me a Singer sewing machine that I had. And I took it to college. And I sewed lots of different outfits. But after a while, you could plant a mustard seed on top of the lid of that Singer sewing machine, because it was just collecting dust. And I have material right now that's dry rotting in my house that I have yet to make an outfit out of it. But I still think about sewing. And that was another hobby. I know y'all got some more stories out there about Binge, and I want you to think about it as I tell you about some more events with Freetown Village. The event at the Landmark Center is free, but they would appreciate registration. Just go online. But there will also be at the Sassafras Tea Festival. I know you've been wanting some sassafras tea. I can see you drooling. It's Saturday, April 25th from 11 to 4 p.m. at the Jennings County Historical Society. And it's the Sassafras and Civil War Living History Festival. They want you to come relive the 1860s as Jennings County lived through the Civil War, Underground Railroad, and daily life in pioneer America. There'll be reenactors. There'll be the Freetown Village singers. People like Lou Wallace and Hagerman Tripp and Oliver Morton and everybody else from that time period. Carriage rides, weaving, and other crafts. Music on the square. And don't forget the blue and gray ball. And I think if they're talking about the uniforms and not the people. The Freetown Village Singers will also be at the Crown Hill Speaker Series on Thursday, April 30th, from 6 to 7 p.m. at the Crown Hill Gothic Chapel. They'll be featured in Crown Hills Foundation's 2026 lineup of special events. Listen, anybody else got another story about Binge? All week long, I kept thinking it wasn't Binge. I thought it was Bling. But I reached in here and I have pulled out the name, Donna Jones. Was gonna tell a story about Binge. Because I'm running out of things that I'm bad at, like binging.
Okay, then. Well, first off, let me say this. I'll be 72 this summer. Well, thank you. And that's just for reference, which means that I can age in the 70s. Now, if you remember the 70s, they were a rather drug infested time in this country. I was a student, and yes, I was drug infested. There was an evening, a couple of friends of mine that I had met my freshman year at Vincennes that I was staying with. We lived on the east side of town on the post road. And I'm not going to give them, I'm going to call them T and C because I'm not going to give you their real names. Anyway,
I know.
right. And T was a waitress, and she was forever bringing home stray people. T brought home this guy one time, and then later he showed up with a friend and a large old mirror and a plastic bag full of what was then referred to as THC in a crystalline form. Now, I was working at the time at Lazarus, which was a new store back then. This is before I went into the Navy, so I was really young and dumb. But he showed up this evening with this extremely powerful narcotic. And we all got as bent and twisted and crooked and out of line as we could. I woke up the next morning and I couldn't see. But I had to go to work because my boss was picking me up. I stumbled down the stairs. I waited on him. He took me to work. I puked, called T and said, "Come get me because I can't stay here." Which she did. I don't know how she managed to see, and she was driving. Ah, the joys of being young and dumb, but we can't be killed. Amen?
Amen.
So anyway, I get back home. I'm laid out on the floor for the next 10 hours. That was the most amazing, incredible, crazy ass binge I have ever done.
Thank you, Don. That's why the Lord smote her eyesight. She couldn't see the next day. I just really can't be out of control, okay? Listen, I know y'all out there thinking about a story you got to tell. I don't know if these things are necessarily binges, but I come from a family of alcoholics. And they had some stories to tell. And I don't think they thought they were binging, but normal people just don't drink a whole half a gallon of Seagram 7. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I call a binge. So once I was really mad because some friends of mine had talked me into having a Mary Kay party. I must have been drinking. Anyway, I had a Mary Kay party scheduled on a Sunday afternoon. And that was back in the days where you could not get any alcohol in Indiana on a Sunday. And my brother was staying with me. And I had gotten everything together. I was going to serve margaritas. We were having shish kebabs grilled on the grill. and I had a patio full of people coming. At the last minute, at 9 o'clock on a Saturday night, something said to me, Self, check your stock of alcohol. And I went into my kitchen, checked in the cabinet, and the half a gallon of tequila that I intended to use was GONE. And there was only one other person in my house. And the culprit was my brother, who had binged out on the whole half a gallon of tequila. I like to say that's all he drank. But every bottle of expensive liquor that I had underneath that cabinet was gone. And it wasn't like it was a week that it took him to drink it all up. I'm saying it was a night. And I was mad and I was infuriated and I was livid. And I talked about him drinking my alcohol so badly that friends of mine who didn't even drink brought me half gallons of tequila just to shut me up. But that's a binge that I wasn't on that cost me. But I put you into this lime green basket, and I had pulled the name of Shannon Sam.
Thank you for the enthusiasm. So I'll help you.
So you start my timer.
Okay, restart. So, because I can talk. You liked 24. My show was Sex and the City. I loved that show. I know that younger women find it problematic, but it was a different time. Okay. And I didn't even know about the show. I'd heard about it, but I was not working a job where I could even afford HBO. But finally, I eked out some kind of expense for it because I'm like, I got to see the show. And so I started watching it and I got in there at like season 3 in time for her to get done with Big and do the cheating and then get in with Aiden rather, and then Burger and the Post-it note and the breakup, of course. And I was hooked. And that Sex and the City song would come on Sunday nights and I would dance around my apartment alone. I just loved that show. Well, then the show ended. And since then, I've bought all the DVDs. And anytime like you move or something and you don't have your cable set up or you don't have the internet yet, you can pop those DVDs in and watch them over and over and over again. And it's the best. And I feel like for the reunion and just like that, like someone should have taken Samantha's character. They should have taken Kim Cattrall at gunpoint and made her be in it. Like, does she have free will? I don't think so. She does not. I need her to be in that show. It was still good, nonetheless. But I loved watching it, binging it, and it would be comforting. Especially, I remember I moved into this last place, and it was like you'd move all day, you'd have like things to fix around the house, and you'd just drop, and you could watch the show and be comforted. So then the movies came out. And the first time I saw the movie, a girlfriend and I got dressed up and we went and it was great. And I remember like being delusional, sitting in the cinema and I hadn't seen my girls in a while. And they came up on screen and I started clapping like a seal. I was like, hey guys, it's me, I'm here. Like ridiculous, right? Like, hey Samantha, hey Carrie, you look great, I haven't seen you in a while. That movie, Chef's Kiss, so good. So then the next one came out and a few years had gone by and I was excited. Everyone was excited. And my girlfriend, we'll call her Kay. She said, I'm going to have a bunch of girls over. We're going to get dressed up. We're going to go. Oh, okay. That sounds great. This is an event, right? So we did. But when I got to Kay's house, she was already drunk. And I was like, this is not looking good. And I was right. We had to drive her to the cinema. And the show started and she started talking throughout the entire show. Not whispering. Shannon, did you see? Is that the guy? I don't remember. Like yelling down the aisle, yelling down the row, rather. And I was like, oh my God, you are ruining this for me. And I think I finally told her that. I was like, you have to be quiet. I mean, this is sacrosanct to like be talking when Carrie Bradshaw's talking. What are you doing? She was so drunk that at one point she got up. I don't know why, maybe she used the restroom, and she fell into the middle aisle, fell down on her face, and everyone in the movie theater started clapping. And my friends that were with me were like, what are we gonna do? And I said, leave her there. Finally, she's quiet and we can enjoy the rest of the movie. So we did watch the rest of the movie. She finally shut up, I think, falling down and injuring herself, and no one came to help her. And an entire movie theater full of people clapping at her expense shut her up pretty good. Can you imagine her waking up the next day being like, oh man, I probably binged a little too much last night? To her credit, she called me the next day and she said, I know I ruined that experience for you. And I know it was important to you. And I would like to take you to see it again on me. And we went and she apologized. And I'm like, it happens to all of us. We get excited and we binge so we can binge. And she made it up to me. So all is well in the world of New York City, the fifth character of Sex and the City. Thank you.
Yeah, I would love for that too. Thank you so much. I felt that way about Northern Exposure. And it wasn't on the cable, the streaming services for a long time. And a friend of mine gave me the set for Christmas one year. And it's just like, you see something the first time, you got to look at it again because you see something different. Or people have gone on to success and you see them in different shows. And you just want to go back and see that moose standing in the middle of the street in Sicily, Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
So now you can see it on Netflix, but I still have to say. But I reached into this basket, this lime green basket, and I just pulled out No Bewley's name. I know this is going to be good. Now, if something comes up, y'all just get a snoop from Samantha, and we'll be ready.
So at my wedding, my brother walked up to my wife and he said, you know, he's a binger, right? And she didn't know what to think. And I'm sure she thought it was for potato chips or cookies or something like that. But at that time, that's more what it was. Girl Scout cookies. I'll eat a tube of peppermint Thinks without thinking. But in college, it was a little different. So in college, my freshman year, there were three of us, and all three of us got Dear John letters. Same November, before Thanksgiving. And we were going to fix them. We got fake IDs. We got in the car and we drove to the first bar we could find. And we drank until they kicked us out for being loud. And then we drove down 31 to Lowe's restaurant. And that back then they served big mugs of beer for very little. So we sat there and were very loud again, complaining about these girls that are sent us a Dear John letter and how awful it was that we all got them at the same time. And so we drank our beer and then we had to go to the restroom. And we walked into the restroom and there were not plywood, but particle board walls there. And we were angry enough that we took our fists and started punching the particle board walls. And we punched right through the particle board walls into the office manager's office. And he came out and he proceeded to say, I'm calling the police, stay right where you are. I need your names. And we handed our IDs and he goes, no, I need your names. And so he said, I'm not calling the police if you tell me the truth. And we gave him our sad story about the girlfriends. And then he said, give me your addresses, your home address. And so we did. How are you getting back to college? We were going to drive. And he said, no, you're not driving. I'll take you back. He drove us back to our fraternity house. And the next day I got a phone call from my father that said, he said, I'd like you to come home this weekend. Now, my father's the kind of person who, when he starts a lecture, you really want to just say, here's a board, hit me. Please just hit me. And it'll be over. But no, I got a very, very long lecture about how his brothers were alcoholics and things like that. And I'm sure I can't repeat what he said. But I owed him $300 for fixing the wall. And I may have done a few more things like that in the next 10 years that were not quite that bad or expensive. But I woke up one morning with bloodshot eyes, and I had just missed a football game that I was supposed to drive to, and I couldn't even get out of bed. And I just thought, this is probably got to be the end of this. And so now you'll see part of my beer there because I drank one beer at a time about 3 times a month. And that's it. I don't binge on anything except maybe Girl Scout cookies. There are Girl Scouts in the neighborhood. But that was one awful binge which should have taught me a lesson. And it did later. Thank you. Oh.
Thank you, Noel. All the foolishness of youth. You never want your parents to know these things.
Thank you.
Yeah, they always know, you know. Like I tell my brothers that I'm the oldest, so I look at them and say, I don't understand why you keep telling me the same lie. Do you know I know when you lying to me? It's a gift I got from my mother. But that's okay. Well, I'm reaching into this lime green basket again. Thank goodness there's still some names in here. Because I was gonna have to go from table to table and, you know. But right now, Pete. Pete Kagan, come on in. All right. Hey, Pete.
You're close, it's on.
Hi.
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of letters I'm not pronouncing.
I know, it's like, it's one of those things. How y'all doing? You know, I just saw this on the web the other day and I thought Storytellers and I thought, holy crap, I'm a storyteller. This is perfect. So I thought about binging, you know, like binge, and I thought, God, I don't know what I don't binge in anything I think about, like food, eat, alcohol, but there's one thing, as I thought about it, there's one thing I binge about, and that would be swearing. Saying bad words. I mean, yeah, I can go on. You remember like Christmas Story, the dad, he's like, my dad can go into like this. Yeah, I'm that guy. Totally. And I came by it honestly. Because my father, I mean, dad was a mailman, postman, worked in the post office. But in a previous life, he was a Marine. He actually had spent some time as a drill instructor in officers candidate school. And so, kind of, when you're the only son, you kind of come by it honestly, right? Oh, yeah. So, you know, my Uncle Paul, my dad's younger brother, he was in combat, the Korean War. It was bad. It was really bad for him. And he was telling me a story. He goes, you know, the night before we shipped out, we were like in California, and we were going to get on the boat the next day. We were going to ship out.
And so we're all like 18, 19, 20 years old. And we know we're going to go into combat and we might not come back. So he goes, what do you think we did? I'm drinking. We went out and got drunk. And he goes, matter of fact, one of the guys had an older brother who was a second lieutenant in the Marines. Now, I don't know if you know anything about lieutenants and Marines, but they have the highest casualty and death rate in World War II of any of the other soldiers. You know why? Because they don't tell you what to do. They say, follow me. They show you what to do. And that's what my dad used to tell me, is that's what they do. So he says, God brings an older brother who's a second lieutenant of the Marines, and he goes, you know, a couple of hours after drinking, he just goes, looks at us and goes, you know, you guys have been complaining about being in basic training in the Army. You guys are a bunch of wimps. Jesus. He goes, I was in basic training in the enlisted men. It was 3 times harder than what you're talking about. And he goes, matter of fact, I was so good at being a sergeant, they promoted me. They were going to make me a lieutenant. But you have to go through officers candidate school first. And he goes, and you know what? It was 10 times harder than enlisted men's basic training. He goes, matter of fact, he goes, I had this one drill instructor. He was Satan. He was evil. And he wouldn't yell and scream at you. He would get in your face about 2 inches away from your face. And he would just talk to you. He'd say, you really are a worthless piece of ass, aren't you? You're a dumb MF. And you know what? You're a coward. You know it. I know it. And I'm going to make sure everybody knows it. Because you're not going to get my brothers killed. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure you're not going to pass. Because you're a coward. You might as well quit right now, you stupid SOB. And my uncle said, I looked at the dude and said, what was his name? And he goes, Staff Sergeant Hahn. He goes, that's what I thought you could say. That's my older brother. And he said the guy just looked at him with like almost tears in his eyes. And he went, that's your older brother? He's like, yeah. And he goes, you poor bastard. And we laughed because we knew what he was talking about. And then I just looked at my uncle and said, I wonder if being his younger brother is anything like being his only son. And my uncle just kind of stopped and looked at me and went, you poor bastard. And we laughed. You know, I was the only son. So I spent a lot of time around my dad. And when it was just us, that's the way he talked. And when you're, you know, when you're a kid or you're grown up, that's kind of what you pick up. Now, I grew up Catholic. So I went to Catholic grade school, Catholic high school. Now, if you're a Catholic, but if you did, you know what I'm talking about. First day, first grade. I was 6 years old. And at recess, they gave us a ball, and we went out on the parking lot, and they had a basketball goal. And this is back before the days before they go up and down. They're all set at 10 feet. Now, we're a bunch of little kids out there with a ball trying to shoot it in the net, and of course we can't because it's too high. And I have the ball in my hand, and some kid goes to, you know, I go to shoot, and some kid shoves me and takes the ball away from me. I said something, and I don't know if you're, you know, maybe if you're young, you would know this, but back then, if you said something bad, everybody went, and that's what they did. Come flying out of nowhere is Sister Lorita, my first grade teacher. She grabs me by the ear, drags me across the parking lot, and makes me walk up and down the sidewalk next to the church as punishment. Well, that night at dinner, we're sitting there in the kitchen table eating dinner. My mom had just gone back to work. I was probably one of the first latchkey kids because, you know, mom went back to work. She was a telephone operator back in the days when you used actual cords, when you did that. And of course, she looks at me and goes, we're all sitting there. She goes, how was your first day? And I go, well, I kind of got in trouble. And she goes, what happened? And I told her, what happened? And she said, well, what'd you say? I said, well, I said, get your goddamn hands off me, you son of a bitch. I was 6 years old. There is only one time in my life that I ever saw my father terrified, and that was it. Because if, for example, if I'm over here, my mom's looking at me and my dad's over here, she went, and mom had a look, and my dad, the ex-Marine drill sergeant, went, hug, 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 hug. It's one of my favorite memories of all time. Because it was like, you're scared. You know, like, and you know, when you have a dad like that, when it was just the two of us, that's how we talked. I mean, that was how we talked, the two of us. Now, my friends in the neighborhood, and I grew up in a pretty working class neighborhood, they would laugh like, I don't know what to say. Because when it was, they were on me and my dad, they were just like, I don't know what to say. Because when you're a kid, that doesn't make any sense. So my best friend and I were about 12 years old. And we were renting a little lake cottage. I don't know if any of you know Crooked Lake up north. So we're renting a little crooked, cottage up near Captain's Cabin, up there. And we decided to go fishing at night. Now, if I don't know if you ever been cat fishing, but if you fish at night, you sit at the end of the little dock, take a Coleman lantern, put it out there, the bugs all gather, get on the water, and the catfish come eat them. Well, it's just this tiny little pier, and my friend Mike is sitting on the end of the pier with the lantern, and we can't both fit on there, so I'm sitting in a little fishing boat next to him. And Mike catches this catfish. That big. We're 12. We're not getting that thing off. So I go get my dad. Dad comes out. Remember Darren Stevens in Bewitched? Dad comes out with pajamas, a robe, and dad slippers. And he's trying to get the fish off the hook. I'm sitting in the little boat, Mike's sitting there. And all of a sudden, he starts slamming this fish on the dock. God damn. I'm sitting in the boat and I look at him and go, what's wrong? Can't you get the goddamn son of a bitch off the hook? I'm 12. And he goes, no, look at this. I remember looking at my friend's face and it was pure horror. Like, I can't believe you're talking like that. Well, as fate would have it, I am casting out right as I'm talking. And behind me are all the air mattress, all the air things that we floated on. My hook caught in the air mattress, ripped one of them open, and then caught me in the ear and cut my ear. What do you think the words were that came out of my mouth? Several of them. And my dad was like, you dumbass, what the hell are you shitting about? Look at this. And I was like, what the hell is this? And my friend the whole time is. And after dad left and when got the fish off, my friend just looked at me and went, you cussed at your dad. And I was like, that's what we do. I mean, that's the way we talk. And, when you have a dad like that, it becomes normal. It really does. That's the way you talk. And it was a real struggle sometimes to learn how not to say that around other people. Now, I was 36 when my dad died. And honestly, we didn't have a last time to talk. So we didn't have anything to say. It just was, pretty sudden. Oh, I'm out of time. Oh, sorry.
But yeah.
Well, the best part of the story, what I was going to say. I was going to say is, this is sad, but have you ever had a moment in your life, something happens you cannot explain? You have no explanation for it. It doesn't make any sense. My niece had been molested by her paternal uncle. Guy was in a wheelchair, but he molested her over a period of time. It went to trial. Now, I used to be a deputy prosecutor. And when I talked to the deputy prosecutor prosecuting the case, I said, I'm just Uncle Pete. If you do what you got to do. But if you need my help, I'm there. So it's the day of the trial. And they asked me, can you sit in the courtroom with her? Now, it's this tiny little Indiana town with a tiny little courtroom. And the courtroom is small, like where the first two tables are. It's a tiny little room. And it's ready to start. She's the first witness. We wait. It's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. And I know as a prosecutor who's done a lot of trials, this is bad. Door opens and the prosecutor looks around and goes, "You here." Oh God, this is bad. So I walked down this little tiny hallway, maybe 20 feet to the room where she was. Looked down the other hallway. My sister and her mom is just sobbing. I'm like, this is terrible. And I walk in the room, and my niece is in the corner. She's in the fetal position, sobbing and screaming. What do you do? I don't have any experience with that. I've never been trained with anything like that. What do you do? Literally, what do you do? My dad showed up. My dad showed up. Because all of a sudden, and it didn't feel like me, but all of a sudden it was like, what the hell is this shit? What are you doing? Get off your ass and get over here. And she just stopped and went, okay. And she came over, and I got this far away from her. I got one question for you, girlie. Are you telling the truth or not? And she said, yeah. And I said, that's good because I effing hate liars. So get out there and tell the truth. And she said, I can't. And I said, why? She said, can't. I go, let me tell you something. If you don't do that, if you don't go out there and tell the truth, he's going to get away with it. And he's going to do it to somebody else. We are good people in this family. And we do not do the wrong thing. We do the right thing. So you're going to get out there and you're going to effing tell the truth. Do you understand? And she looked at me and went, yeah. And she went out there. The two ladies who were the victims advocates just looked at me and went, thank you. So I went to the courtroom. She was fantastic. She did a great job. And he was convicted. And he will be in jail for the rest of his life. Now, sometimes court people are stupid. There was an elevator. There was a wheelchair. And so they went to the elevator, and the sheriffs left him in the middle of the little hallway. Right here. I could have reached out and tapped his head. And honestly, I had my hands in my pockets. I could feel my car keys. And I thought, I could pull his hair back, take my car keys out, stab him in the neck, hit his carotid artery, and I'll kill the son of a bitch. All of a sudden, it just popped in my head. Who the hell do you think you are? What the hell is this S? Who do you think you are? Oh, great. Who's going to take care of your family? Who's going to take care of your kids? Who's going to defend them? Who's going to provide for them? We do the right thing in this family. You put your hands out of your keys and you leave that man alone. It wasn't me thinking that. Honest to God, it was not me thinking it. Because my reaction was, you're right. You're right. I won't do it. And that happened. As I'm driving home, that's when it dawned on me. Oh my God, that was Dad. Oh, the same words, the same intonation, the same tone, everything. Whether you believe or not, whether you have faith or not, it happened. It really happened that way. And I look at it and think, thank God he was that way. Because in the moment that his granddaughter needed him, he was there through me. So, yeah, bitch cuss. There you go.
Sometimes we just gotta hear the end of the story. I'm sorry. Okay. Wow. Be that way.
I wanna.
Listen, I love a good cuss word, okay? And I love to string them together in a pattern, okay? So we need that should be another thing, okay? Anyway, thank you for your story. But I got another storyteller ready to tell. Can't wait. It's Jessica Heck. Come on down.
It was March 3rd of 2025, and I'm pushing my squeaky wheeled cart up and down the aisles of Costco with my 13-year-old daughter, Zara. As the mother of four, grocery day usually has the energy of the cornucopia scene at the beginning of the Hunger Games, except everyone's not fighting for crossbows, they're going for the carbs at any given moment. And so that's the energy that I thought this day was going to have. But this day was a little bit different because this was the day that we had gotten the diagnosis. See, my daughter had been having these strange symptoms for about a year. She was hungry but couldn't eat. Her skin tone was kind of olive colored. She never wanted to get out of bed. So they had run test after test after test and couldn't find anything. So we were for several months in this kind of limbo. And over these months, her skin tone kind of went from olive to elphaba, and she was dropping weight really fast. And so, like moms do, I called the doctor and said, hey, could we do these tests again? Like maybe we missed something. So they did. And on March 2nd, March 3rd, 2025, they called and they said, your daughter has celiac disease, which is a severe reaction to wheat, malt, barley, and rye. And even the smallest doses, to the point where even something marked gluten-free might not be celiac safe for her. So I'm always an optimist, and I'm just thinking, we finally have an answer. We're not in limbo anymore. We have action steps. So I run up to my daughter's room, eager to tell her the news. And I walk in, and she'd been sleeping with her pink teen Bible, which was a sign that it had been a rough night, and she hadn't been feeling well. But I woke her up and I said, Zara, we have an answer. We have an answer. Finally, you have celiac disease. And she just rolls over in bed and she looks at me and she says, Mom, why should I even get up? Now I can't eat anything. And I can't blame her. I mean, even a piece of flour or a breadcrumb could make her sick for 6 days. It's as a teenager, it's like being a superhero, which essentially teenagers are, and then finding out that kryptonite exists and that kryptonite is microscopic and everywhere. So I went downstairs and sat at the dining room table and had a glass of red wine at 11 o'clock in the morning because that's my kryptonite. If 12 o'clock comes around, 1 o'clock comes around, 2 o'clock comes around, and I have WebMD'd myself into a frenzy at this point. She's still asleep, and I'm thinking, we have got to do something. So I go upstairs and I grab her and I say, Zara, we need some Costco energy right now. Get up, get dressed, we're going to Costco. So there we are going through the aisles at Costco. And I'm like, I'm sure that half of what we eat is probably gluten-free. It's going to be fine. And after 2 hours of reading labels scrupulously, we have 3 things in our cart: apples, hummus, and potato chips. And she's looking really sad. And it doesn't help any that you could smell the rotisserie chickens in the back, she can't eat anymore. So it's a kind of like suburban torture, smelling that. And so finally I say to her, why don't you take this cart and just anything that says certified gluten-free, you can have it. And I'm like kind of a cross between an almond mom and a cheap ass. And so this is like pretty rare for me to let my kids have control over the grocery cart. But I'm like, just go for it. Because I knew that I didn't have a good poker face. And if she started to cry, that I was going to start crying. And this was not going to go well. And so I gave her the cart and sent her away. And I said, I'll just be right here in the yogurt aisle. So 5 minutes passes, 10 minutes pass, 15 minutes pass. She's still not back. So I call my husband. I'm like, what am I going to do? She can't find anything. I think she's not going to find anything. What are we going to do? And just at that moment, I hear the squeaky cart in the next aisle over. And I say, okay, I got to go. And I hang up. And she comes around the aisle And I'll be darned if she had not piled that cart full of things that she had found. She was so excited. She was like fruit by the foot and Skittles and Starbursts and macaron and ice cream and pickle dip. She goes, I didn't even know that pickle dip existed, but they were giving out samples and it said certified gluten free. So I got some. And she had so much food in that cart and a smile that I had not seen in months. So I could not back out on this deal. So it has been a year and I am still making payments on that Costco trip. But it was worth it because she's doing better. And not because celiac is easy, but because that day we discovered the healing restorative power of sex.
Which is why I'll be going to Myers on the way home to get me some potato chips. Listen, this storytelling has been fantastic. Don't forget, our next session will be at Cholita Tacos. And the topic is, who remembers? Anybody?
Rom-com.
Rom-Com. Okay. Don't forget, show up for just another day with Kim Whitcamp. That's our last artist of this season. That's at the History Center. And that's April 25th, I do believe. Don't forget, if you want to get some sassafras tea, don't forget the Freetown Village Singers will be at the Jennings County Sassafras and Civil War Living History Festival. And that's the 25th as well from 11 to 4. So you can go there, come on back into town, get your little something to eat, head on down to the History Center, okay? I'll be there. Now, my cousin buddy, where you go?
It's in the back.
You know, I'm thinking that would just be an ideal adaptation for a French Brazil story. You know, fellowship, you need to work on that. I had the opportunity to do a fellowship. Jen did fellowship, plus is in the center fellowship. But it's any topic you choose. It's time for you to actually explore a topic that you want to perform. And Frank Priscilla, Katrina Priscilla are just the nicest people in the world. And the application is not that difficult to complete. If you need any help, just call me, okay? Just Google me, I'm in the book. Listen. We are going to have a drawing, are we? Did we take the forms out?
That's it.
Nope. Oops, you don't get, no, there's only one more set. So, too bad, so sad. I'm waiting, I'm just buying my time so that they can get all the scoring done. And you know, we give cash prizes. That's why people come. It might not be enough to pay for your dinner tonight, but you can buy a drink with it. You know what I'm saying? Please, tomorrow at 6 o'clock at Indiana Landmarks, Freetown Village is having at the Sacred Center, Remembering Black Art and Artists. It's free, but they would like you to register. But I'm thinking that sassafras tea sounds, but does anybody have any? I think sassafras don't taste good. Am I wrong? Is it just me?
Sugar.
You need sugar, but okay, I get it. Well, at any rate, I'm looking forward to seeing you at our next session. And our tellers, our winners, we'd like you to come up. We'll have your picture taken so we can document that this actually happened, that I did not abscond with the funds. Okay? Our third place winner is, you know, sometimes I'm here and I listen to all the stories. And then when I go home, I say, well, what did she tell? I can't remember what the story was about. Then I have to really think really, really hard. But then I'll wait and I'll go online and I'll see it because Shannon has put it online. Which is why I believe Shannon has received a third place prize.
Yay!
And our second place prize goes to Jessica. Congratulations.
Thanks.
And our third place prize goes to Jennifer. It's a ladies' night. Listen, I really appreciate you coming out. I'm gonna sip the rest of my margarita before I go. But I hope to see you again at our next Story Slam, if not before, okay?